Women don't belong on the front lines, Major Jake Harrison had said repeatedly. Until his SEAL team walked into a perfectly coordinated ambush and Maya eliminated 8 enemies in 4 minutes flat. That day, he learned that deadly precision has nothing to do with gender and everything to do with skill forged in the Montana wilderness. Welcome to Hidden Story, where we uncover the extraordinary lives hiding in plain sight. Before we dive into this powerful story of battlefield vindication and deadly precision, tell us in the comments if you've ever had to prove yourself when everyone doubted your capabilities. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us ensure they're never forgotten. The Syrian mountains stretched endlessly under the harsh morning sun, their rocky peaks providing perfect concealment for enemy forces and deadly challenges for any military operation. Staff Sergeant Maya Rivera crouched behind a boulder, watching Major Jake "Steel" Harrison brief his 8-man SEAL team through her rifle scope. At 26 years old, with black hair typically braided in tactical style and dark eyes that could track movement at 800 meters through mountain terrain, Maya had served as designated marksman for various special operations units for 2 years. But to Major Harrison, she remained what he called the female sniper they keep assigning to our missions. Harrison's reputation in naval special warfare was legendary. 15 years of operations, 4 Bronze Stars, and a Silver Star earned during the battle for Ramadi. But his attitudes toward women in combat roles belonged to a different era. Combat effectiveness requires physical dominance and psychological toughness that women simply can't provide, he would tell other commanders when forced to accept female personnel on his missions. Maya's background was unlike any other sniper in the military. Raised on a Montana ranch by a father who was both a master hunter and former Marine Scout sniper, she had learned to track and shoot before she could properly read. Every winter of her childhood had been spent in the Rocky Mountain wilderness, learning patience, stealth, and precision shooting that couldn't be taught in any military school. Her father, Gunnery Sergeant Carlos "Ghost" Rivera, had been one of the Marine Corps' most decorated snipers, accumulating 67 confirmed kills during 2 tours in Iraq. After retiring, he had chosen to raise Maya on their family ranch in the Bitterroot Valley, where he could pass on skills that combined traditional hunting techniques with modern precision shooting. "Mia," he would tell her during their hunting expeditions through snow-covered mountains, "anyone can hit a stationary target when conditions are perfect. A real sniper adapts to impossible situations and makes shots when everything is working against them." Carlos had taught Maya that marksmanship was only part of being a sniper. The mental discipline, the patience to wait for the perfect shot, and the ability to read environmental conditions were equally important. By age 15, Maya could track elk through mountain terrain for days, reading subtle signs that experienced hunters would miss. At 17, she was making consistent kills at ranges exceeding 600 meters, using rifles that her father had customized for extreme mountain shooting conditions. Maya had enlisted immediately after graduating from the University of Montana with a degree in wildlife biology and ballistics. Her military aptitude scores were exceptional, her marksmanship records broke training corps standards, and her understanding of fieldcraft impressed instructors who had been teaching snipers for decades. But despite her qualifications, Maya faced constant skepticism from male commanders who questioned whether women belonged in frontline combat operations. Major Harrison was the worst of them all. "Rivera is technically proficient," Harrison would admit when pressed by higher headquarters. "But when the shooting starts and men are dying, you need someone with the psychological toughness for real combat. Support roles are more appropriate for female personnel." Harrison's attitude wasn't uncommon among special operations commanders who had built their careers in an exclusively male environment. They viewed the integration of women into combat roles as political correctness that compromised operational effectiveness. In their minds, Maya represented everything wrong with modern military policies that prioritized social experiments over combat readiness. Maya endured his condescending assignments and patronizing comments in professional silence, but she also spent her off-duty time studying Harrison's previous operations, analyzing his tactical preferences, and identifying weaknesses in his planning methodology. Harrison was an aggressive commander who preferred direct approaches and overwhelming firepower, but his confidence sometimes blinded him to subtle threats that required different solutions. That opportunity came during Operation Dark Forest, a classified mission deep in the Syrian mountains. Intelligence reports indicated that a high-value target, a terrorist commander responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces, was meeting with regional cell leaders in a fortified compound nestled in mountainous terrain. The tactical situation was complex. Satellite imagery showed the compound's defensive positions, but the mountainous terrain limited visibility of surrounding areas. Electronic intercepts suggested the meeting would occur within a specific time window, but the exact number of security personnel remained uncertain. Maya had studied the intelligence more carefully than anyone else on the team, using her Montana wilderness experience to read environmental clues that others missed. The mountains surrounding the compound showed signs of recent human activity, paths that were too regular to be natural, defensive preparations that suggested a larger security force than official estimates indicated. Harrison's plan was characteristically aggressive, a direct assault by his 8-man SEAL team, with Maya providing distant overwatch from a safe position far from the actual fighting. "Rivera, you'll establish overwatch here." Harrison pointed to a position on the tactical map that was over 900 meters from the target compound. "Stay put, maintain radio contact, and only engage if someone tries to escape. Leave the real combat to professionals." Maya studied the terrain carefully, noting elevation changes, wind patterns, and lines of sight that Harrison hadn't considered. The position he had chosen would allow her to observe the compound, but it wouldn't enable effective support if his team encountered serious resistance. "Sir," she said respectfully, "if I moved to this ridgeline, I'd have better coverage of the entire area and multiple engagement angles for supporting fire." Harrison's expression hardened. "Rivera, I've been planning combat operations since before you knew what a rifle was. You'll take the position I assign and follow the orders I give. This isn't a training exercise where you get to improvise." Maya nodded professionally, but privately she began planning for contingencies that Harrison's overconfidence couldn't envision. She had noticed patterns in the intelligence that suggested this operation might not proceed as smoothly as Harrison expected. The insertion went exactly as planned. Harrison's team moved through the mountainous terrain with practiced precision, while Maya established her position where ordered. Through her scope, she could observe the compound clearly, a cluster of buildings surrounded by defensive positions that matched intelligence descriptions perfectly. But as Maya scanned the surrounding mountains, she began noticing details that preliminary reconnaissance had missed. Enemy positions that were too well concealed to be detected from satellite imagery. Movement patterns that suggested a much larger security force. Most importantly, defensive preparations that indicated the enemy might be expecting visitors. Her scope revealed camouflaged fighting positions expertly constructed to blend with natural terrain. Communication antennas disguised as dead vegetation, weapon caches hidden beneath false rock formations. The defensive preparations were too sophisticated for routine security. This was a carefully planned network designed to destroy any assault force. "Shadow, this is Steel," Harrison's voice crackled through her earpiece. "Beginning our approach. Maintain overwatch and report any movement." Maya tracked Harrison's team through her scope as they moved toward the compound. 8 elite operators advancing in perfect formation, confident in their training and firepower. But through her magnified optics, she could see what they couldn't: enemy fighters positioning themselves for an ambush that would trap the entire SEAL team in devastating crossfire. "Steel, this is Shadow. I'm observing movement in concealed positions approximately 100 meters northeast of your location. Multiple fighters taking ambush positions." "Shadow, maintain radio discipline. We don't see any immediate threats. Continue overwatch." Maya suppressed her frustration. Harrison's team was walking into a carefully prepared ambush, but his confidence in his tactical assessment prevented him from recognizing the danger. Through her scope, she could see 8 enemy fighters maneuvering to surround the SEAL team, but from Harrison's ground-level perspective, they remained invisible. The ambush was triggered when Harrison's team reached exactly where the enemy wanted them, caught in open ground between the compound and mountain slopes with limited cover and restricted escape routes. The mountains erupted with automatic weapons fire from multiple directions, muzzle flashes revealing concealed positions that had been invisible moments before. "Contact! Contact!" Harrison's voice carried panic and disbelief. "Taking fire from multiple positions. Where did they come from?" Maya could see the entire tactical situation through her scope. Harrison's team pinned down in a rocky clearing, 8 enemy fighters positioned in perfect enveloping formation, with more hostiles moving to close escape routes. The SEAL team was trapped in exactly the kind of ambush that destroyed elite units when overconfidence met superior enemy preparation. "Steele, this is Shadow. I have visual on 8 enemy positions. I can eliminate the threat, but I need to relocate to effective firing position." "Negative, Shadow. Maintain your position and wait for instructions." But Maya was already moving. Harrison's tactical stubbornness would get his entire team killed, and she wasn't going to watch 8 American warriors die because of his prejudices and pride. She had trained her entire life for exactly this moment, when conventional tactics failed and unconventional solutions became the only option. Moving through mountainous terrain with over 50 pounds of equipment required skills that couldn't be taught in any school. Maya flowed across the rocky landscape like a ghost, using natural concealment and deer trails to approach effective firing positions without being detected. Every movement was calculated, designed to keep her invisible while closing to optimal engagement range. The position she chose wasn't the one Harrison had assigned. It was a rocky ledge that provided clear lines of sight to all 8 enemy positions while keeping her concealed from their view. Establishing her shooting position required climbing techniques learned in Montana and fieldcraft that came from years of hunting in impossible terrain. Through her scope, Maya could see Harrison's team desperately fighting for their lives. Professional soldiers using sound tactics, but outnumbered and outmaneuvered by enemies who had chosen the battlefield and dictated engagement terms. The first shot was critical. Maya had identified the enemy commander, a fighter coordinating the ambush through hand signals and radio communications. Eliminating him would disrupt their command structure and create the confusion she needed to systematically destroy the remaining force. Distance, 430 meters. Wind, variable, gusting through mountain passes. Target, mobile, partially concealed behind natural cover, the kind of shot that separated real snipers from people who could hit stationary targets on ranges. Maya controlled her breathing, feeling her heart rate slow to the rhythm her father had trained into her years ago. The crosshairs settled on the enemy commander's center mass, accounting for wind drift and bullet drop at this range. She exhaled halfway and held it, applying steady trigger pressure. The rifle fired. 430 meters away, the enemy commander dropped instantly, his radio and weapons scattering as his body fell. The coordinated ambush immediately began losing cohesion as remaining fighters struggled to determine where the shot originated. Maya was already acquiring her second target, a machine gunner pouring devastating fire into Harrison's position. The angle was more challenging, requiring her to shoot through a gap in the rocks barely wider than her bullet path. Second shot, second kill. The psychological impact of losing their commander and heavy weapons specialist sent confusion through the enemy force. They had been systematically destroying a trapped SEAL team. Now they were being hunted by an invisible predator, picking them off with surgical precision. "Shadow, where are those shots coming from?" Harrison's voice carried amazement and disbelief. "Steele, this is Shadow, eliminating threats. Keep your heads down and prepare to move on my signal." The third and fourth shots came within seconds of each other. Maya had identified 2 fighters attempting to flank Harrison's position, eliminating them with rapid target acquisition techniques her father had taught her, engaging multiple threats without losing momentum. Each shot was a masterpiece of precision marksmanship. Wind conditions varied between targets, forcing Maya to adjust calculations for each engagement. Enemy fighters were using natural concealment that made them nearly invisible, requiring her to track subtle movements and predict behavior patterns. By her fifth shot, remaining enemy fighters were panicking. They had been ambushing a trapped SEAL team, but were being systematically destroyed by an opponent they couldn't see or locate. The psychological pressure of being hunted was breaking their discipline and exposing them to further attack. Maya's sixth and seventh shots eliminated 2 fighters trying to escape through mountain terrain. They had abandoned positions and were running for safety. But Maya tracked their movement through rocky landscape and stopped them with shots that would have impressed Olympic marksmen. The eighth and final shot eliminated the last enemy fighter, who had tried to consolidate into a defensive position. Maya had anticipated his movement and positioned herself to engage him as he exposed himself. The shot was calculated for maximum effect, eliminating the final threat with cold, professional efficiency. 4 minutes after the ambush began, 8 enemy fighters lay dead in the Syrian mountains, and Harrison's SEAL team was alive and unharmed. The engagement that should have destroyed an elite American unit had instead become a demonstration of precision marksmanship that redefined what one sniper could accomplish in combat. Shadow. This is steel. Harrison's voice carried a tone Maya had never heard from him, complete respect mixed with amazement. I need you to explain what just happened. Maya keyed her radio calmly. Threats eliminated, sir. Area secure. Recommend we continue with primary mission. The primary mission, eliminating the high-value target, proceeded flawlessly. The terrorist commander and his council were eliminated in a surgical strike that went exactly as planned, now that the security force had been neutralized by Maya's precision shooting. But the defining moment came during helicopter extraction, when Harrison sat across from Maya in the cargo bay and looked at her with completely different eyes. Rivera, he said quietly, I owe you an apology. What you did back there, I've never witnessed anything like it. 8 targets, 4 minutes, perfect shooting under impossible conditions. You saved every life on my team. Maya looked at the SEAL commander who had spent months doubting her capabilities and treating her like a liability. Sir, I was just doing my job. No, Harrison replied firmly. You were doing something far beyond your job. You were being the sniper I never realized we needed. The after-action reports from Operation Dark Forest became classified case studies examined by special operations commands worldwide. Maya's engagement was analyzed as a perfect example of precision marksmanship under extreme pressure, demonstrating tactical innovations that challenged conventional doctrine about sniper employment in mountainous terrain. 6 months later, Staff Sergeant Maya Rivera was promoted to Sergeant First Class and offered assignment to the most elite sniper units in the military. More importantly, she never again heard a SEAL commander question whether women belonged in frontline combat operations. Major Harrison became one of her strongest advocates, frequently telling other officers, if you want to understand what a real sniper can accomplish, watch Rivera work. She doesn't just eliminate targets, she controls entire battlefields through precision and patience. The relationship between Harrison and Maya evolved from mutual antagonism to professional respect, and eventually to the trust that exists between warriors who have saved each other's lives. Harrison learned to listen to her tactical assessments, while Maya learned to work within command structures that valued her input rather than dismissing it. 2 years later, when Harrison was promoted to colonel and given command of Naval Special Warfare Group 2, his first personnel request was for Maya Rivera to serve as his senior sniper instructor. Her Montana wilderness techniques became standard curriculum for all special operations snipers. Today, Master Sergeant Maya Shadow Rivera runs the military's most advanced mountain warfare sniper program, teaching techniques that combine Rocky Mountain hunting skills with modern precision shooting technology. Her students learn not just marksmanship, but the patience, fieldcraft, and tactical thinking that transform good shooters into legendary snipers. Maya's story reminds us that the most dangerous assumptions are the ones we make about people based on preconceptions rather than performance. The SEAL commander who dismissed her as the female sniper learned that gender was irrelevant when bullets were flying and lives were on the line. What mattered was precision, patience, and the willingness to take responsibility for outcomes others couldn't achieve. Sometimes our greatest victories come not from meeting expectations, but from exceeding them so completely that the expectations themselves are forced to change. Maya Rivera didn't just eliminate 8 enemies in 4 minutes, she eliminated every assumption about what women could accomplish in combat. If this story moved you, please hit that subscribe button and share it with others. Help us ensure these tales of battlefield vindication and deadly precision reach the people who need to hear them. Thank you for watching Hidden Story. We'll see you in the next story, where another lesson waits to be learned, another truth waits to be revealed, and another reminder awaits that capability has